Welcome back, fellow escapees. Welcome back to my channel where I help burnt out corporate employees ditch their boring 9-to-5 and create a life of financial freedom. So in today's video, I am going to talk about the 401k plan because I have clients that are people that I have met and they have no idea how to use their company's 401k plan to set up their retirement, or I have some clients, they did not do it the correct way, and fast forward years later, they are in a really bad situation because you cannot go back 10, 20, 30 years and correct the mistakes that you made then. Now, I wish at that time they had met someone who could have shown them the correct way to do a 401k, but they just didn't seek the help that they needed at that time, and now they're trying to play catch up and fix the situation that they're in because they don't have enough for retirement or nowhere close of enough money for retirement. So I don't want that to happen to you. So I was like, I have to make this video. I have to get this message out there, and I have to make sure that, if you're subscribed to this channel or watching this channel, that you know what to do so that this does not happen to you. All right, so many years ago, of course, a lot of people know that a lot of companies will give you a pension if you stay with the company 20 plus years. A lot of times you would get a pension and they would pay for, pretty much take care of you in retirement along with Social Security. So most people did not have to worry about retirement, like setting up their own retirement account like a 401k. They had their company to take care of that for them. Fast forward, a lot of companies are, of course, unless you work for the federal government or some other sector that still offers the pension pretty much no longer exists for the majority of the American people. I want to say almost 80% of people do not have a pension, and that's dwindling. Of course, every couple of years, more and more companies are taking a pension away. Some companies that are unions and things like that, they'll have pensions. Like I said, the federal government will have pension plans, but the majority of these major corporations and smaller corporations do not. So you are responsible for your own retirement. And the problem with that, I find with that, is you're taking people who were never taught finances and you're telling them to go manage your own finances in your own retirement. And it's like, how are they supposed to do that when a school system and society never taught anyone about finances? So now you expect them to become some expert, like a financial planner and a stock investor, or like a pension manager. You're now expecting them to have the expertise that those people went to school and trained for. And now you're expecting the average American person to know how to manage their own money and prepare for this. And I think that's really unfair and unfortunate because a lot of people aren't prepared, and they know they're not prepared, and they don't understand exactly what to do to get themselves to enough money so that they are able to retire. So let's start off with how the 401k works. So a lot of companies, as far as a part of your compensation plan, like your salary and compensation plan with their company, is the 401k. So a compensation plan is going to be your salary, your health care, any other benefits that they're going to offer you, and then the 401k. Most companies that I've come across will contribute between 2 to 6% of what you put into your 401k, and then they'll match 50 to 100% of that, depending on the company. Like I said, I have found some companies that will go up as much as 10%, but I want to say Google was one of them, but it was really rare to find a company that will go that high. Most of them were between a 2, 4, 6%, 5%, that range. As I'm filming this video, the contribution limits right now is $23,500 if you're under the age of 50. Once you're 50 and over, then they allow you to do what is called catch-up contributions, and you can put $7,500 plus the $23,500 plus the $7,500. So you're able to add that if you're able to max out your 401k. Now, you don't have to put that much, but of course, it is encouraged that you max it out so that you can have enough saved up for your retirement. Now, one of the benefits that is promoted a lot with the 401k is the the fact that you do not have to pay taxes. I'm sorry, you do have to pay taxes. You pay taxes when the money is withdrawn in retirement, but when you contribute the money to your 401k, they will reduce your taxes that you have to pay for that year. So if you contribute, let's say you make 100,000, you contribute 10,000, then you're only taxed on 90,000 or whatever your salary is. So just take your salary, how much you're contributing, and then you reduce your taxes by that much. But then closer to when you get ready to retire and withdraw that money, that is when you're going to be taxed on this money. And a lot of people may think that, that may not make sense or that may not be fair because you're going to be taxed. But a lot of times in retirement, you no longer have the job and the income, so you're going to be taxed at a lower rate, and that is the benefit and the plus of using the 401k, reducing your taxes today, and then in the future, having the federal taxes lower because you're in retirement age. The age that you can take your money out, if you don't know, is going to be 59 and a half. If you decide to take your money out before 59 and a half, you're going to be hit with a 10% penalty fee. So it's often encouraged that you do not touch this money until you're 59 and a half or older, because the penalties can eat away at your contributions that you have contributed over the years to your 401k. Now, many times people will be at their job. They may not be at their jobs their full career. So let's say you decided to leave your job and you're still, you go and switch to another job, and then you decide that, and then normally when you switch to another job, you will have to transfer your 401k from your previous job to your new job or to another like independent brokerage account. You cannot leave your 401k at your previous employer until your retirement age. You have to move it when you roll it over when you leave the other job, just in case you're not in the same job for your full career, or while you have this 401k or whatever. So just be mindful of that. That's not a bad thing or anything. It's just be aware that you need to move it. And sometimes when people leave a company, they just leave their 401k and then they start getting letters in the mail or emails saying, hey, you are no longer with this company, you need to move your 401k. So make sure you do that. That's something a lot of people don't know, which it's in your paperwork, but I guess, as you're working and busy with your career, you're just not paying attention and you don't realize that you have to move it over if you change jobs. Some of the plus of having a 401k is you do get to borrow against it in your lifetime. So let's say you're in your 20s when you start, or your 30s, and you're like, well, I can't retire until I'm 60, basically 60, 59 and a half, almost 60. So if you're in your 20s or 30s, maybe in your 40s, whatever, you might think to yourself like, oh my God, what if something comes up and I need this money? I've been contributing 10, 20 thousand a year to this account, but now an emergency has come up, a job loss has come up, a sickness has come up, and I need this money. You can borrow against your 401k, so that is a plus. And they do allow that. They do allow you to borrow it if you are buying a house. And they also, if you become disabled, they do allow you to take the money out without penalty. So there are some ways to access this money before your retirement age, but it's encouraged so that it can grow and so that you have enough money in retirement. It is encouraged that you do not touch it for as long as you can. But I do come across many people who have to tap into it some point in time in their lifetime. I do also come across people who have a hard time having the discipline to do the 401k because they're like, the thought of 20, 30, 40 years is a long time. I just have so much coming up in my life over these next couple of years. I just can't imagine not being able to have that much of my money like for me to use, over these next few years, because even if you can borrow against it, sometimes there's a limit on how much you can borrow. So you can't usually access 100% of it. Sometimes you can get a portion. Let's say you put in 25,000. Some places, some of your jobs may allow you to get up to 10,000 out of it. So you may be like, well, I still need the other, 15,000, or so there, did I say 20,000 or 25,000? But whatever the remaining amount is. So sometimes people have a hard time, separating themselves from their money for that long period of time. Now, I myself, like my channel describes, I left corporate America in my, at the age of 35. So I don't work for anyone else. So I'm not worried about it. But for people who are going to be in a workforce for, most of their career in their lifetime, this is probably the way you're going to have to go if you don't do the, like the early retirement plan that I teach my clients. Then the traditional way to get to retirement is going to be this method. It's actually right now, unless like I say, you work for the government, the police department, unions, companies that will give you the pension when you work for them over 20 plus years. Unless you are gonna go, that route, there's no other route to get you the money you need to retirement. The only other way is you're gonna have to save and invest your own money, and you're gonna have to learn this stuff, because if you don't have that money when you hit retirement, you are gonna be in so much trouble if you're not born rich or have a lot of income. You are gonna be in an extreme amount of trouble. There's a lot of people that are living on the street and homeless right now because they did not save for retirement. And I made a video on that. A lot of people have to sleep in their cars, sleep in parks, sleep in shelters, sleep on sidewalks, because they are in their 60s and 70s now, and they don't have any money. And some of them, they got $500 or $800 Social Security checks, and of course we know that that just covers pretty much food. That's not going to cover any medications. That's not going to cover any hobbies and traveling. That's not going to cover housing, when housing is around $2,000 to $2,500 a month in most major cities right now. That's not going to cover hardly anything. So the only way you're going to have money is through your 401k, like some form of saving up for retirement. And also your 401k is usually tied to the stock market or indexes or bonds. So if you're not investing in that, your money's not growing. So even if you said, well, I'll just save money under my mattress, well, it's not going to be enough. You cannot work yourself to wealth. Usually you cannot work yourself to riches. You have to invest and save, build a business, or have some way to, like I said, invest in real estate, invest in the stock market. You have to do something else with that money for the money to grow. The money will not grow just because you're putting it in a savings account or in a bank, a checking account. It's not going to be enough. It will not keep up with inflation at all. So a lot of times your 401k is going to be tied to the stock market and the indexes. Now, here is the mistake that I saw people make that has destroyed their retirement. And it is very sad, because like I said, you can never go back 10, 20, 30 years and redo your retirement if you are already at retirement age. So the mistake that I saw people make, and this one guy, he basically put his money into his company 401k and he just kept working. 10 years later, I think he said he looked up and he was like, I don't understand. My money is just still almost the same amount of money. Like, of course, it's what he put in, but it wasn't any more than that. So let's just say he put in 20 grand. Well, because of how much the stock market went up, he should have had almost like, let's just say 60 or 80 grand. He couldn't figure out why he only had the 20 grand, 25 grand, whatever he put in. He said he just didn't understand. So one day he was talking to a guy and he realized, the guy was like, well, did you put in the stock market? So the guy was like, no, I just put it into the 401k and I thought they'd do that. So no, once you transfer your money over, you have to select the stocks and the mutual funds that your company offers you. And if you don't select the right ones that are growing or have the potential to grow, your money's not going to grow at all or grow as much. Also, sometimes people put it in bonds and they're like, well, bonds are safer than a stock market, so I'd rather put it here. But you can't do that when you're young, because you need the growth of the market. So when you put it in bonds, it's for income and preservation, and the interest rates could be anywhere from sometimes 1% to 6%, and that's not enough. Whereas the stock market can give you anywhere from 8% to 20% some years. So that is the amount of money you need. That is the amount of return that you need in order for your 401k to grow. So that's how you hear about people. They may put in, let's just say they put in $10,000 a year for 30 years, and then they're worth $1 or $2 million. Well, that's how it happens. Well, if you put it in a savings account, checking account, or bonds, if you put in $10,000 a year, I don't know the math on that, but like let's just say it may be worth 200 grand, and you never got the growth potential that it could have reached because you didn't know to put it in the stock market. People fear the stock market, but the stock market is, I love the stock market actually. The stock market is very, it has an over 100-year track record at this point in our lives. It does go down, but it all doesn't go down at the same time. So you could have a fund, let's just say your fund is in AI, that fund may go crazy and give you an astronomical return. Like if you invested in Tesla, for an example, $10,000 10 years ago, today you could be worth like $5 million, just something crazy, or what is the other one called, NVIDIA or something like that. People were worth $18 million, like crazy numbers, right? And all they did was put in, like 5, 10, 15,000, 25,000 over the last 10 years, and this stock returns so much that they're worth like millions and millions. So some stocks will go down, but because you're buying a collection of stocks, you're going to have some that's going to go down, some that's going to go up. So it usually balances out enough where you can get the type of return and money that you need to live off of. You don't want to not invest in the stock market. It's just already been proven. It's global now. You can invest in other countries, Asia and Africa and the Middle East, Europe. You can hedge against inflation. You can hedge against down cycles in other countries and markets. You're not gonna just lose every dollar you put in there. When you hear about, the stock market crashed today or it went down, yeah, the stock market goes down, but I'll still make money in the stock market on another fund I have, or another investment that I'm doing, or another stock that I own, so I'll lose money maybe on some stuff, but then I'll make a lot of money on other stuff. So sorry, there's bee, big old bee flying, or that was a wasp. But I'll make money on other stocks, and then I'll make dividends on that money, and so I'm still like able to live off that money, or have that money for retirement. So you can't avoid the 401k in the stock market because you're scared. That is the way they have set it up now, because they took the pension away from most of the American people, because they're not going to give it to you anymore. Companies will not give you a pension, like I said, for the most part. So your only option is going to be the 401k. So whether you like it or not, it's tied to the indexes, it's tied to the stock market, it's tied to the bond market, and that's just going to be how it is. So that is your option. Now you can, another way to retire is you could, like I said, buy real estate or start, a business that generates you enough money that it replaces your salary at a job, and, work that into your retirement age, or hire staff to work that business for you, whatever. But there's no other way around investing in saving money. Now we have always been threatened for many years about the Social Security running out of money, and there's going to be a time where people will not be able to get Social Security in the future. I haven't seen it happen just yet, but I don't know if it will ever be taken away. I think it will be detrimental to the people if they do take it away, because there are people who, even if they save for retirement, I just really feel like they're gonna need it because of how expensive everything is with the tariffs and inflation. Like, you're gonna need the extra money. Regardless, even if they gave it to you, it's not enough. It is like $500 to $2,000 for most people. There's some $4,000 Social Security checks. I've heard of $7,000 Social Security checks. I've heard of big Social Security checks, but it doesn't seem like that is for the majority of the people, because the kind of jobs the majority of Americans have are average or lower wages. So they weren't those higher income earners or work that many years in their lifetime to get those higher checks like that. So I would not rely on Social Security, but it will be a benefit and a plus if it's there when I retire, or not when I retire, but when you guys retire, or like when I'm of that age to receive it, because I'm not of that age right now to receive Social Security. But I would love to have that extra income because I work for it, and I contribute to it, but it's no guarantee it's gonna be there. And also the downfall also with Social Security is that when they were taking the money out of your check, I don't feel like they should have ever done that to the American people, because they're not giving you the return on your money. Like if you put that money over your working lifetime into real estate or the stock market, you would have millions of dollars. So they're basically giving you, like, taking the money out of your check and then giving you little crumbs back at the retirement age. Where if you looked at putting that money into the stock market, even if it's $300 a month, $500 a month, $1,000 a month they're taking from you, over the course of 20, 30 years, you would have like almost $2 to $3 million. But when they give it to you, it's only like I said, $500 to $2,000 a month. It's so low. So, I wanted to also talk one more thing about the Roth IRA. Is real quick on a Roth IRA. The Roth IRA, they made the contribution limits for that $7,000 a year. And I feel like the Roth IRA should be the one, it's the $23,500 a year. But the reason why they won't give you that is because they allow your money to grow tax-free, and when you take it out, the money's going to be tax-free. So basically that has more incentives or more like benefits for someone trying to retire than the regular 401k, but yet they put a low limit on it and an income restriction on it. And so that it's almost like, so you don't make enough. You get enough, you get a little bit, they give you like a little bit, but they want to limit you. And I don't know, I have my own opinion about this stuff. I don't want to go off into a rabbit hole, but it's like, if you're really trying to help somebody retire and become financially free, why would you limit how much they can contribute? Why would you give the regular 401k a higher limit, and then people pay taxes on that later, and then you give the Roth, the one that people can grow tax-free so they can have some money in retirement? You're going to only allow them to put $7,000 a year into that. Well, but that's for another video. If you do decide to do the Roth 401k, you can IRA, you can do that one in addition to the 401k. You just got to split how much you're putting into each. And then they have an income threshold, which I don't think is fair to anyone making under $1 million. But anyway, if you're single, it's between 150, they say, to 165. That is the limit that they'll allow you. I'm sorry, that's your income limit. So if you make over that, you can't use this retirement I guess not system, but you can't use this retirement plan. And then if you're married, if you make over 246, you can't contribute to this. So I don't think that's fair. I think that if you're really trying to help somebody get to retirement, you should allow them to be able to use the higher contribution amount. And I know some people are be like, well, yeah, but look at how much money they make. They do, but it is hard, especially Hawaii, California, New York. That's not a lot of money. And especially if you ever made this amount of money, which I have, they tax the crap out of you. So you're not getting all this money. They tax you so heavily, it is almost like robbery. And so a lot of people in this income level still struggle, just like people who make less than they do, because how high things cost. And because usually a lot of people, well, in every state there's a lot of high income earners, of course, but places like we know, California, Silicon Valley, when you're making 150 or 250, you got a $2 million, $5 million house out there too. So it's not like you're making these higher incomes. You're usually living in places like New York and in Seattle and California, where you're making it, but then they make stuff out there so high, it's almost like you're making the $50,000 to $80,000 wage out there, right? And if you've ever lived out there, know anyone who does, there are people right now living in their cars making $150,000 a year because they can't afford $4,000 to $8,000 housing in some of these areas. So I just wanted to share that with you about the 401k. I do offer help and coaching for people who are looking to get to early retirement faster than that. If you are tired of working your dreaded 9 to 5 and you're looking for a way to retire a little bit earlier than this, or just have financial freedom, I do offer coaching for that. And that's why I built this channel, because I kind of found a way. Like, I wasn't going to sit around on a 401k for 20, 30, 40 years. There was no freaking way. I was like, I know there's a faster way to get to retirement, and I'm not gonna work for somebody for this long and wait and work my life away and have them, you know, controlling all my time and when I can wake up in the morning, when I can take a vacation, when I can spend time with my family. I was not gonna have that. So that's why this channel is built. But I still have to make content for people who are still in the workforce and have to go the traditional route or just choose to go the longer route. I still make content for that because that's just the reality of most people. But there is a faster way, guys. I don't know why it's not taught. I feel like it's not taught because a lot of maybe the financial planners or stockbrokers or whoever or jobs, whatever, they're not going to teach it to you, because I think if they do, then you'll realize you don't have to work for them forever. You can go ahead and work for them forever, especially if you love your job, but you don't have to. And I think that's why they don't teach it to you. They teach you the long way of putting this money into the 401k and waiting 20, 30, 40, 50 years, whatever they tell you, because that's going to keep you tied to that job and stuck, you know. But thank you guys so much for watching my channel. I'm dropping videos every day, so guys, please like and subscribe if you want to get notifications of when I'm dropping these videos, and then my contact information is below the video and also in the About Me section, so you can reach out to me if you need any help with planning your corporate escape. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.